Thank you so much for giving us your time. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. And we're really hoping that this will reach families across the state so they can really lean on discovery education as really whatever it can be, as supplemental to their child's education, as if their child is assigned discovery education, just to help their child navigate it, or even just for family use, because Nikita and I talked a little bit about like what families can do together. So thank you so much. First of all, just for anybody who is not familiar at all, can you just give us an overview of what is discovery education and how it came to be that everybody in the state connected with education has access to it?
Sure. So discovery education is a learning ecosystem. And I know that sounds like a fancy term, but that's because it doesn't fall into the only resources area, nor does it fall into the only sharing of resources platform area. It's kind of a lot of different things, right? And for the teachers, it provides them with resources for their instruction, instructional strategies, and then tools to manage that instruction and their students. For the students, primarily, it's a place for them to access content that their teachers share with them, as well as accessing content of their own interest and design, using it for research, using it for what I like to call edutainment, as well as creating collections, curations, and artifacts of their learning. The way that this has become available to all the students in Nevada is that there has been a partnership between Discovery Education, the Department of Education in Nevada, and the Nevada Gold Mines. It was really that partnership between the Department of Education and the Nevada Gold Mines that facilitated us to be able to provide this for 2 years for all teachers and public school teachers, public charter school teachers, and public and charter school teacher students in the state of Nevada.
So it's interesting. You just said that about, so charter school. So 2 of my kiddos go to a state sponsored charter school, and I don't think that I haven't seen them at all accessing discovery education. So as a parent, if I wanted to introduce my child to discovery education, because they would have access, correct?
Correct.
How could I go about, because my kids' edutainment is YouTube videos and Pokemon stuff and, you know, following the latest videos on Fortnite and what have you. So how can I get them connected and get them interested in curating these types of videos so it becomes part of their pastime?
I would love to share that with you. So the magic word in the state of Nevada is clever. That's the magic word. So what we did to facilitate access to all teachers and students was we created a Clever integration. So Clever, the company Clever, that is basically a single sign-on portal type business, also partnered with the state so that we could give access to the all of the teachers and students in one easy way. So the answer would be Clever. Now, the only difference would be if your child's charter school, for one reason or another, did not accept that Clever integration. Most did not. I would say over 90%, and Nikita can clarify for me, but I'd say over 90% of the schools just said, sure, we'll take that. But if they didn't, then we can work with the schools to figure out which is the best single sign-on opportunity, but they all have the capability of access.
And we could talk, Jordana, offline, like, you know, about that, just for you to give us the name of the school so we could research and make sure that they've done what they need to do too as a charter network.
Well, and I almost wonder as a parent, if I couldn't reach out to the school, maybe they're unaware.
Absolutely, you can, yes.
Yes. So essentially all students in the state of Nevada should have a Clever account. And then when they log into that Clever account, they should see Discovery Education as an icon in that account. And clicking that icon gives them immediate access to what you see on the screen.
I'm just curious, I'm on our Canvas team as well at school, and I notice in some of the things, is that integrated through Canvas as well?
It is.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So not all school districts opted into the Canvas integration because some
Okay.
were already heavily invested in other learning management systems like Google or Schoology
Mhm.
or even Teams, Microsoft Teams. So not all schools, but in Clark County they did. So in Clark County, a student can access Discovery Education either through Clever or
Uh-huh.
through Canvas.
That's awesome.
And even through Canvas, then they could access videos at their own will, not only
Correct.
ones that teachers have pushed out through the LMS, but they can just explore Canvas on their, or Discovery Ed on their own.
Yes, on the left-hand side, in the list of links, there
Mhm.
should be something that says Discovery Education, and that is a portal, if you will, that will immediately open up their account in Discovery Education.
So I see you've got your screen there. Can you show us how a student might, you're so excited about that, how a student might then just, I know that, you get on YouTube, and you're looking specifically because I was going to cook some potatoes and I was looking up a recipe, and 2 hours later, I'm still on YouTube and I'm watching videos of cats dancing to music. So is there that same, interest and flow that can happen on Discovery Ed for students to then be engaged with this educational material where they might also get lost in your platform?
Yeah, I think there is, right? So immediately, one of the things you're going to notice is that assigned materials, the most recent assigned materials will show up here on their main page. By the way, I will mention that we are working on the student portal interface. It's not going to change anytime soon, but when it does, we will make sure that everyone's updated. But for right now, they have access to the assignments. We could talk about that in a little bit. But to answer your question, one of the things that happens is that they're going to jump directly into one of these three areas, right? Because it's biggest, it's boldest on the screen.
Mhm.
So most students will come over here, they'll enter interactives. And what you'll see when I go into interactives is almost 3,700 different learning opportunities, right? So there's that down the rabbit hole piece you were talking about, Jordana, right? So, oh my God, I'm going to race to the castle, or I'm going to investigate matter, or and the thing that the students can do then, I'm going to just filter because I'm logged into a certain account. I'm going to filter just Discovery Education experience. So it does drop it down to 2,700, but it's still a lot of experiences. The students can filter by subject area. So if they're really interested in science, they can filter out science. If they're really interested in math, they can filter out math and they can explore. There are some grade band filters as well, but most students ignore those. I'll be quite honest with you. And then when they come in here now, the interactives are probably one of the most engaging things that the students happen upon, other than video content, which you mentioned earlier. But that's because it's kind of patterned and looks a little bit like, a computer game, right? And so they get to pick something to do. And then once they're there, they get to investigate. They can listen to what the words are. They can start to look at the properties. This automatically sorts it for them. But then in the next screen, after they go through the three different properties of shape and volume, now they're going to investigate, right? So I'm going to start weighing these balls and taking a notice of, how much they weigh. And so there's a lot of click and drag and design, and intention behind what the students are doing to keep them engaged, but also helping them learn from that experience. They have two other areas that they might enter into: news and current events, and virtual field trips, which is by far our most popular area for students
Mhm.
when it comes to these immediate places that they're going to find, right? The virtual field trips themselves, we've got the recorded archives of the virtual field trips. And then they've also got in this channel, and I'm going to shut my camera off as well, because that's what's creating the lag when I try to do camera and Zoom at the same time. And so you'll see that there's also populated learning activities built around the virtual field trip. So I might be interested in the NBA, and I might come in here to this activity, learn about what happens in the virtual field trip, and then also, consider some thoughts and things as part of what I'm learning as part of the virtual field trip. And then, of course, there's also the search. So if you said something like, you said you were looking to how to cook potatoes, but maybe a student might come in and say, I'm really super into sharks, right? They know how to Google, they know how to do that search. So you can see I could put sharks in, and I'm going to get about 800 almost resources on sharks. And some of them are images, so I'm not going to do much with those, but I've got a lot of video content. I've got a lot of, I've got an entire channel of Kenny the Shark episodes. So now I'm going to go watch every Kenny the Shark episode that exists here in this channel, which is a lot of watching, right? So again, the idea being that whether they're searching or they're accessing it through some of the automatic channels that are on the page, they're finding content that is of their interest.
I love that. It made me think about also opportunities for when students perhaps have been assigned, and this would be more towards secondary, a research project where they have to go and find their own research. Are the resources at Discovery Ed resources that can be cited in students' work?
Yes, and I'll show you that. And I would also say that I don't think this is limited to secondary, right? I know a lot of educators who will give students assignments just on the concept of researching, and or here's another example. I'm a 7th grade science teacher, and I've asked the students to make a claim and back that up with evidence. And so they're going to go in to Discovery Education and find that evidence that backs up their claim. Or I'm a 6th grade or 5th grade social studies teachers, and I've asked the students to find something that represents a certain social studies concept, right? So it can be used in a lot of ways, but let me show you the answer to what you were talking about. So I'm going to turn off my camera again, just because it makes it load faster. And I'm going to, let's say, for example, another really, I'm a 4th grade teacher, and I want the students to tell me everything they can learn about bears, right? So they're going to do a search for bears, and they're going to find videos, but I might set in my parameters in my rubric that I want them to only use one video resource, but I also want them to use 4 images, a text file, and maybe even an audio file, right? So now, let's say, for example, I'm going to do my report on polar bears, because there's a lot of polar bears right here at the top of my screen. I didn't put in polar bears, but that's what came up. So I'm going to quick list this as a student, and that means that's going to help me curate, right? And then I'm going to go to the images now. And one of the things, I'll open one of these images to show you the direct answer to your question, which is that all of our content has the citations right there on the page for the students, so that they can grab those and put them into whatever research process. So I'm going to quick list that as well. And so as I am curating my resources and making really good decisions about what resources to use, based on my teacher's parameters, I'm going to curate those. And then when I'm done curating, another thing that they can do is they can come into their quick list, and they can either save those to their my content and build out a folder for that project. So I can say, this is my bear project folder, right? And then that entire folder can be given back to the teacher as part of their project. And then the other feature that they have, which we haven't talked about yet, but we will touch upon, is the creation tool of Studio, which will allow them to actually build an artifact that has text and any media, as well as things that they want to upload and links to build that artifact for their teacher.
Wow.
So give me examples of what those artifacts might look like. It sounds like you're saying they could actually do an entire project where maybe they take clips of videos. Can they shorten like a video into a clip, take some images, take some text, and put it all together?
Yes. So one of the things I should mention before I answer the first part of your question on the second part of your question, let me jump back over here, because I do want to point something out, and that is almost our entire video library is segmented. And so by that, I mean that all of the videos are already in short 2 to 3 minute clips. So if I were to look for content on polar bears, for example, I'm sorry, I just had to shift my Zoom thing. Oops. It would help if I nope, I had it right the first time. I'm just gonna do bears again. If I were to do that search for, and then I filtered video. Do you see how I filter video here? And then what I can do is I can go into that video. You see that some are video, full videos, and some are video segments. So if I went into that back to bare basics, I can choose which segment I want to quick list or use in my project. It's already segmented for them into these little chunks. Another aspect, and this might really go over well in your environment, Kelly, because you work it with technical students, is that, do you see that this filter right here that says editable? That means that those resources, we have the rights to give you the rights to download and, you know, fix them, change them, shorten them, and the like. Now they can download all of the resources. Technically, they're only supposed to edit the editable ones, right?
Okay.
But to answer the first part of your question of what an artifact can look like, so they would come into their studio. It's a creation environment, right? And they could click on to make either a board or a slideshow. The main difference between the two is that a board is unlimited in its vertical scroll, so you can keep going, you know, down and down and down, where a slideshow has a set canvas like a Google slide, right?
Okay.
That's the main difference. And then once they're in there, they can build this, they can design, customize the background, customize the color palette of what they want their text to be. And then they can add any of these following things. They can search straight from Discovery Education. They can grab from their quick list. They can upload from their computers, currently limited to video and audio files, but we're going to be expanding that. They can add text, and they can add a hyperlink button. And the text in and of itself, test of the text, can be highlighted and then hyperlinked out to wherever. So if they are including other resources that aren't in Discovery Education, they can hyperlink out to those. So it's just as simple as going into my quick list. I've already done my curations. I know that I want to put this bear in my project. I add the bear. It's really super simple to use. It locks, it snaps into place. Each of these boxes snap into place. So they grab that little corner and they put it wherever they want. They can come here and add the text and, you know, do whatever they need to do with the text. And then when they're done, they simply share it or send it back to their teacher. They can make a copy of others and things like that. So it's really super easy to use.
Yeah,
So this shares, sorry, Kelly, this shares, shares with their teacher in what format? And in thinking about sharing, when students are curating a list, can they collaborate on lists with peers? So can they share a list and have it have several students at a time adding to that list and able to view it? So if they're working on a project together, they're all looking at that and adding to that same list.
So there was a couple questions there. The teacher will get it in exactly this same format. So they'll get it as a studio board, which they can then comment on. Now, if the teacher assigned the board in advance for the students to add to, then the teacher gets it back as part of an assignment where they would click through it, but that's a teacher thing, not a student parent thing. So I'm not going to focus on that. Currently, the students cannot work on the same quick list. However, what they can do is put it into their My Content and then share that My Content folder out with others. But that also being said, I want to say that hopefully by the end of February, we will have collaboration on the board itself. And that means that multiple students can work on the board. They will have a feature that the teacher will control, turning on and off and moderating, that will allow them to share resources in like a chat type mechanism, kind of like the old time wiki when they used to work together on those kinds of things. So that feature is scheduled currently to be live by end of February. And so that's going to kick up the capacity of this greatly, because it'll allow students to work together on projects for sure.
Yeah. And then integration into Canvas, when they share that, is it a link that just goes when they turn that in or something like that?
So we're working on that Canvas integration for Studio. When it comes to Canvas integration for individual resources, for the most part, what students would have to do is grab the share link, right? And so if they were, if let's say I didn't put a keyword in, but let's say it was this image. I don't even know what that image is right now because my camera's on. So so physical map of South Asia, right? So they could grab that share link and post it just about anywhere, right? So including Canvas, including a conversation, including their Google Classroom if it was an assignment from the teacher and they were using Google Classroom. So they could share it that way. That's probably for students the easiest way to do that. Teachers have a functionality where they can embed resources into assignments and announcements, but students do not.
Okay. And once the project is completed, they do the same thing basically and just share that link to where it is with, when they turn it in Canvas. Okay.
Yes. And if it was an assignment, so if it was an assignment, if the teacher said, here's a blank canvas and I want you to build on this, that takes it up a notch because that means the students do not even have to share back. They just have to turn it in. They have to click assign and the teachers will have all of those results in one place.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
So much. I mean, like I had no idea really that I just was like, oh, Discovery Edits videos, because back when I was in the classroom, that's what it was, right? And this is clearly so much more. In thinking about our English language learners for videos, is there closed captioning, and how many languages do you support? Because I know in Clark County alone, we have well over 100 languages of students that we're trying to reach. And we're always looking for ways to be able to invite them better into our lessons.
So I'm wondering if you've been a fly on the wall this week there, Jordana.
Maybe.
Because we've been having a lot of conversations about closed captioning as of late because of a partnership with Microsoft. We've added a lot of features, right? So when you go into a resource that has closed captioning, so I can filter right now, you can see we're at about almost 15,000 of our video assets having closed caption. And then when I go into one now, I'm not seeing the one that I have been playing around with most recently. So I'm just going to go into this one and hopefully it's one of them. So there's a small collection of ones that aren't quite ready, but most of them are. So if I come here and I start to play the video, you'll see that once I start to play the video, and I'm going to turn my camera down to stop the lag, because that's all about, it's not about the site, it's all about the Zoom bandwidth thing. So if I start to play the video, I'm going to turn the sound off so I don't have to talk over it. Over here, do you see the little CC icon? And then I want you to take note of all of the different languages that this supports. Okay, so I can say I need Portuguese, and then I can turn on the closed captioning in Portuguese. What a lot of teachers also do is, because this transcript runs along with the video and it lives on a browser, is you can go in and do a Google Translate and also translate the transcript if you needed to. So, but another thing, especially for the ELL population, is to do one in the language, the native language, and the other one in English to support learning those words, hearing them in context. And one last piece about this is you'll notice that there are also some settings. So if I come in here and I go into the caption settings, not only for multiple languages, but for other reasons. So maybe some people have a difficulty seeing that font, or the white on black is harder to read, or whatever it might be. There are lots of functionalities with regards to making sure that it's accessible to all learners.
That's nice. Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because my daughter had Erland syndrome. And it is exactly about the different colors and how they match up on paper. And the screen would be the same way there. And so that's really a great option. We
have a very large focus on accessibility in our content and user experience teams, and they make sure that they try to make sure that all of the the different facets are taken into consideration.
That's great.
The other piece that I will share with you too, as part of the answer to your question, so those are the videos and closed captioning features, but I will also point out that I just did a general search. I'm going to just filter Discovery Education Experience because of the account I'm in. Discovery Education Experience is what Nevada educators and students have, but I'll also scroll down here and show you that we have other content besides videos that are in multiple languages as well. And teachers have entire channels of content that are in multiple languages so that they can facilitate that learning as well. And so if I were to pick, say, French, just for an example, you can see by filtering out French that I have videos, I have text, you see how it's blue here, and I have audio content in French. So now I can go in and see, you know, what's available in those languages. And I'm still logged in as a student. It's a little bit even more robust for a teacher.
Wow.
I'm sold. That's
I
Go
do
ahead.
want to show you two things that might be helpful to your conversation. It's not something that the students can access, but it's certainly wherever you're going to be posting this information for the teachers. I do want to point out that in our help center, we have a certain section that is support by role. And on that page, and I'm going to put this page in the chat and we'll make sure that we send it out to you too. On this page, there's a family center. And in particular, this Discovery Education Experience Guide for Families, it gives them a little bit of the breakdown in which the only thing on this page that's not applicable to Nevada is this login piece, because they get in through Clever, but everything else about navigating the student homepage, what kind of things they're going to find, looking at their assignments, you know, searching for all the things we've discussed, is here for the families and the students. We didn't talk about downloading, but almost all of the content, with the exception of boards and interactives, can be downloaded and used offline. So for those situations where bandwidth and or internet is an issue, that has also been taken care of. I also didn't show you that all of the reading passages open up in a doc reader so that students who are struggling readers and or learning new vocabulary for a subject area or just like to hear the words can play the words and listen to them out loud. And you mentioned your daughter earlier, Kelly. In the tools for the doc reader, there are some ways to switch languages, and one of the language is dyslexic. And so it helps the dyslexic child. You know, it helps their brain understand the font just a little bit better. And so you can see all of this content is here for the family. So I'm going to make sure that I give you this link right now in the chat. And that's just a little bit that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of and what it was when I shared it, because it's not necessarily right now accessible to students. They don't have access to the help center in that way. But we're working on getting it someplace a little bit more forward facing so that if parents need help, they can get it. They can go down here. This is not as, oh, no, sorry, they can't. There's no support link down there for them. So that's one of the things that we're working on.
That was very comprehensive. Thank you. I can't think of anything else to ask unless Kelly has some thoughts from Legrand in his head.
I can't. And then other than just, I mean, because it's so much more than what I was even thinking of, you know, like say a social studies teacher or geography teacher is doing a thing about Paris or France or something. And for the virtual field trips, I'm sure they can go in and look up art and things associated with, you know, French Impressionists.
Oh yeah, I want to mention, because you brought that up, one of my favorites, my favorite collection of content that we just acquired not too long ago is the Visit to the Museum. Now, I'm not sure whether or not students can access that channel individually, but the teachers certainly can, and the teachers can share the channel with the students. So there is some content limits to what the students can find on their own, but almost everything is shareable by the teacher with the students, either through a link or through an assign. But yeah, the museum access piece or a day in the museum, those are some of my favorites.
Nice.
That's great. My favorite so far has been the interactive portions where you can kind of go in and play. I've seen my children at home doing science simulations, and it's been a little limited just from what I've seen, but this looked extensive and it looked colorful and interesting. So see if I can go log on and get my kids to play with that.
So would you agree that ecosystem is a good word?
Yes.
Yeah, I try
no.
to avoid words like platform or library because I don't think
Yes.
either of those do it justice.
Well, and for those of us that have been around for a while in education, clearly Discovery Ed has moved very far to keep up with technology, whereas teachers, we tend to still be back in like the 19th century. So it's good to have a reason and the availability, because it was purchased throughout the entire state, for us to kind of explore Discovery Ed, that it's beyond just finding. I know as a social studies teacher, I was like, oh, I need a video clip. I need 2 minutes here to talk about World War II, and I need a little bit here to talk about Civil War. And they were always part of my teaching in small little clips. But this is quite extensive. And when we know that all of our students have devices at home and, internet capabilities, there's so much more that lives here now that students can engage with for fun and for education. So it's really great to know. Thank you so much.
And not to be punny, but I think that the word you were looking for was rediscover. Discover.
Very. See how you're always thinking? You're 100% Discovery Ed.
We're talking about students and families for the most part, but as an aspect of that, I did want to point out, for the educator, they have all of these instructional strategies. And one of the things that COVID facilitated for us was we were able to create these student-facing videos. So we have the instructional strategies that are meant to be professional learning for the teacher. Here, you can take this video and you can do this with it. But what we've created for them is 30 videos that they can, supply the students directly, that says, I want you to do a 6-word story. This is what it is, and this is what you should do, right? So that's a piece of the assignment piece we didn't talk about a lot because our focus is on students navigating it themselves. But the teachers, hopefully through their work with Nikita, that will start to provide these instructional pieces to the students. And they have the leverage of over 30 of these really engaging videos that are going to help the student to understand what the instruction is all about. So I just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too. And I think where a lot of teachers get stuck is thinking they have to create their own content for everything. So and that takes a very, very long time. And I've always had the work smarter, not harder attitude. And I rarely, even in graphic design, I never record my own videos. I find YouTube videos that show how to do it.
And along those lines, Kelly, I will say that when we're talking about studio, we were talking about it from a student perspective and, that creation piece, but teachers have already created what we call grab and go lessons. So they can, they can start from the perspective of this is already done for me, but because it opens up in studio, it's fully editable. So this is already done for me, but I want to tweak it, or I want to change that question or that piece of direction or whatever before I assign it to my students. So that's another piece of that, the aspect of that for teachers.
No, that's great. That is great.
Great. All I can say is thank you so much. We greatly appreciate your time, both you and Nikita. And this is a terrific platform. And I really hope that there is a way that we can help spread the word to all the students and families in Nevada, because I don't think it's getting as much use as I think that we worry that it's just another thing and teachers get consumed with it. I don't have time. It's another thing. And it is at first, but then once you figure it out, like Kelly was saying, it stuff's already there for you. It's a time saver in the long run. And just the content is so rich and colorful and interactive for students that it certainly seems obvious that it is a help in supporting their education.